Beloved of the Lord, in the mighty and matchless name of Jesus, I decree and declare that this Friday, 21st of May, shall be a day of divine power, supernatural wisdom, and heavenly protection over your life. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every assignment of fear, confusion, and delay is canceled by the authority of Jesus Christ. Are you ready to step into this Friday, knowing that God has already gone before you? Today is not an ordinary day. This is your appointed moment to align your heart, your thoughts, and your purpose with the will of God. Before you step into your responsibilities, your meetings, your work, or your plans, take a moment and ask yourself, what could happen if you truly surrendered this entire day into God's hands? Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today, and what is one thing you are trusting God for this Friday? Sometimes we wake up carrying burdens from yesterday, but this morning, we choose faith over fear, clarity over confusion, and purpose over distraction. Do you believe God can shift the direction of your entire day in just one moment of prayer? As you stay connected through this message, I encourage you to share, and invite someone who needs divine encouragement this morning. You never know whose life can be changed by one prayer. And tell me in the comments, what area of your life needs God's wisdom and protection the most right now? This Friday, expect divine favor, open doors, strategic wisdom, and peace that surpasses all understanding. God is with you, and because He is with you, you will not fail. Amen. Beloved, before your feet touch the ground, and before your mind becomes occupied with the demands of the day, there is a sacred opportunity waiting for you. This Friday is not meant to begin with pressure, anxiety, or rushing from one task to another. It is meant to begin with alignment. Have you ever noticed how the tone of your morning often shapes the rest of your day? The way you begin matters more than many people realize. If you start your day overwhelmed, distracted, and mentally scattered, it becomes easy for stress to take control. But when you start with surrender, something powerful happens within your spirit. Tell me, what is usually the very first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? Many people wake up and immediately reach for their phones. They check messages, emails, notifications, and social media before they have even checked in with their own hearts. By the time they are fully awake, their peace has already been interrupted. Can you relate to that pattern in your own life? But today is an invitation to do something different. Before the noise enters your atmosphere, before opinions influence your thinking, and before responsibilities start calling your name, pause and acknowledge the presence of God. What would happen if you gave God the first moments of your Friday instead of the leftovers? There is something transformative about intentionally placing your day in God's hands. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is wisdom. It is the recognition that your own strength has limits, but God's wisdom has none. Have you ever tried carrying everything alone and felt completely exhausted by the weight of it? Sometimes we think surrender means losing control, but true surrender actually positions you for divine direction. When you surrender your plans, your schedule, your concerns, and your expectations, you create room for God to guide your steps. What part of your life feels most difficult to release right now? Maybe it is your finances. Maybe it is a relationship that has been causing emotional strain. Maybe it is uncertainty about your future, your career, or a major decision you have been wrestling with. What has been taking up the most mental space in your mind this week? This Friday morning, choose to hand it over. Not because the problem is small, but because your God is greater. You do not have to solve every issue before breakfast. You do not have to carry tomorrow while trying to survive today. Wouldn't it feel lighter to know you are not responsible for controlling everything? Surrender begins with honesty. It sounds like saying, God, I cannot manage this day successfully without your presence. I need your wisdom, your peace, and your perspective. Have you had a moment recently where you truly admitted your need for divine help? There is strength in dependency on God. The world often teaches independence as the highest achievement, but spiritual maturity teaches dependence on divine wisdom. You were never designed to function disconnected from your source. Does your daily routine reflect dependence on God or dependence only on your own ability? Invite God into your plans today. Invite Him into your conversations, your work, your errands, your meetings, your family interactions, and your private thoughts. Nothing in your day is too small to be surrendered. What would change if you became more intentional about including God in ordinary moments? Sometimes we only call on God in emergencies. We seek Him when crisis comes, when doors close, or when uncertainty rises. But what if you sought Him before the emergency ever appeared? Have you ever wondered how much stress could be avoided through daily spiritual alignment? A surrendered morning creates spiritual awareness. You become more discerning. You begin to notice what deserves your energy and what does not. You become less reactive and more intentional. Would you say you have been reacting to life lately, or truly leading your day with purpose? Without surrender, it is easy to become emotionally available to everything. Every text message affects your mood. Every inconvenience steals your peace. Every delay feels personal. But when your heart is anchored in God, external situations lose their power to destabilize you. What usually triggers frustration in your day? A surrendered life is not a perfect life. Challenges will still arise. Unexpected moments will still happen. But your response changes when your foundation is secure. Instead of panic, there is perspective. Instead of chaos, there is calm. Can you remember a time when prayer changed the way you handled a difficult situation? Friday often carries unique pressure. Many people are tired from the week, mentally drained, emotionally fatigued, and eager to reach the weekend. By Friday, patience is thinner and focus can be weaker. Are you feeling the weight of the week right now? That is exactly why Friday must begin with intention. You cannot afford to drift into this day unconsciously. You need strength that is renewed, vision that is refreshed, and peace that is restored. What do you need most from God this morning? Maybe you need clarity. Maybe you need courage. Maybe you simply need rest in your soul. Whatever it is, surrender makes room for divine supply. God responds to yielded hearts. Have you made room for Him today? As you move through this Friday, remember that surrender is not a one-time event. It is a posture. It is choosing, moment by moment, to remain connected to God, even when distractions compete for your attention. What usually pulls your focus away during the day? Return to God repeatedly. When stress rises, return. When doubt whispers, return. When frustration builds, return. Spiritual alignment is maintained through intentional reconnection. How often do you pause throughout your day to reset your heart? You are not beginning this Friday empty-handed. You are beginning with access to divine wisdom, supernatural peace, and heavenly direction. That changes everything. Do you believe your day can look different simply because you started it differently? There is power in giving God your first thoughts, your first words, your first attention, your first gratitude, your first decisions. Whatever receives your first attention often shapes your internal atmosphere. So what has been receiving your first attention lately? This morning, let your first focus be God. Let your first declaration be faith. Let your first posture be surrender. There is no safer place to position your day than in the hands of the one who already sees every hour before it unfolds. Does that truth bring peace to your heart today? As you continue through this moment, breathe deeply and recognize that you do not have to rush ahead of grace. You do not have to force what God is already orchestrating. You do not have to fear what is ahead when your future is held by faithful hands. What are you choosing to surrender first this Friday? Beloved, as you begin this Friday, it is important to understand that you are not stepping into this day uncovered, unguarded, or vulnerable to every negative force around you. You are stepping into this day with access to divine protection. Before you face people, situations, decisions, and unexpected moments, your spirit must first be positioned in confidence. Have you ever left your home feeling physically prepared, but spiritually unprepared for what the day might bring? Many people prepare for the visible parts of life while neglecting the invisible realities that influence their peace, focus, and emotional stability. They prepare their appearance, organize their schedule, and plan their responsibilities, but forget to secure their minds and hearts in prayer. What does your spiritual preparation usually look like before you start the day? Protection is not only about physical safety. Yes, we pray for safety on the roads, safety in our homes, and safety for our loved ones, but protection goes much deeper than that. There are things that seek to disturb your peace, weaken your confidence, drain your energy, and distract you from your purpose. Have you noticed how sometimes the greatest battles are not external, but internal? A negative conversation can shift your mood. One discouraging message can disturb your focus. An unexpected delay can trigger frustration, anxiety, or self-doubt. Sometimes it is not a major crisis that disrupts your day, but a series of small attacks against your peace. Can you relate to those moments where little things seem to pile up all at once? This is why divine protection matters. It is not simply about avoiding visible harm. It is about guarding your mind, your emotions, your decisions, and your atmosphere. It is about remaining spiritually covered as you move through environments, conversations, and situations you cannot fully predict. What area of your life feels most vulnerable right now? Maybe you are concerned about your family. You may be carrying quiet worries about your children, your parents, or your spouse. Perhaps you constantly think about their well-being, their decisions, and the things you cannot control. Is there someone in your life you are especially praying protection over today? When you place your loved ones before God, you acknowledge a truth that brings peace. God can reach places you cannot. He can guard people you cannot physically stand beside. He can intervene in moments you may never even know about. Does that thought give you a sense of relief this morning? Protection also includes your work environment. Not every challenge in your day is logistical. Some are relational and emotional. You may encounter tension, misunderstanding, pressure, competition, or difficult personalities. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the emotional atmosphere shift? This is why you must be intentional. You cannot afford to absorb every emotion, every negative energy, and every unnecessary conflict around you. Divine protection creates healthy boundaries around your peace. It helps you stay centered, even when your environment feels unstable. Do you sometimes struggle to protect your peace around certain people? You do not have to internalize every opinion spoken about you. You do not have to carry the weight of everyone's expectations. You do not have to be emotionally accessible to chaos. There is wisdom in allowing God to guard your inner world. What has been stealing your peace lately? Sometimes the greatest threat is mental exhaustion. Overthinking can become a silent thief. You replay conversations, analyze possibilities, anticipate problems, and create stress before anything has even happened. Does your mind ever feel like it is working overtime? This Friday, choose to place your thoughts under divine covering. Protection includes mental discipline. It means refusing to allow fear to dominate your imagination. It means rejecting the habit of rehearsing worst-case scenarios. What fear has been trying to occupy your thoughts recently? Fear can make small problems feel enormous. It magnifies uncertainty and weakens confidence. But divine protection reminds you that God is not only aware of what concerns you, He is already present in every moment ahead. How differently would you move today if you fully trusted that truth? Protection is also necessary for your decisions. One impulsive decision can create unnecessary complications. One emotionally driven response can damage an opportunity or relationship. Have you ever made a decision in frustration and later wished you had paused first? That is why wisdom and protection often work together. Divine protection is not only God shielding you from external harm, sometimes it is God protecting you from your own impulses. It is His wisdom slowing you down, redirecting your steps, or closing a door you were ready to force open. Can you think of a time when a closed door later turned out to be protection? At the time, it may have felt disappointing. You may have questioned why something did not work out, why someone left, or why an opportunity was delayed. But later, with clearer perspective, you recognize that not receiving what you wanted was actually a form of divine preservation. Have you experienced that kind of realization before? As you move through this Friday, become aware of the value of spiritual sensitivity. Pay attention to what disturbs your peace. Pay attention to what drains your energy. Not everything deserves access to your mind, your time, or your emotions. Are there areas where you need stronger boundaries? Sometimes protection requires distance. Distance from toxic conversations, unhealthy patterns, draining habits, and environments that consistently weaken your clarity. Protection is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is deeply practical. What do you need to distance yourself from in this season? You are not called to live paranoid, fearful, or hyper-vigilant. Divine protection does not produce anxiety, it produces confidence. You can move through this day with calm assurance, knowing you are covered. How would your body feel if you released tension and trusted that you are not navigating today alone? As you go forward, remember that protection is not passive. It requires intentional alignment. Guard what you allow into your mind. Guard what influences your emotions. Guard what shapes your perspective. What has been influencing your mindset most this week? Be selective with your atmosphere. What you listen to matters. What you meditate on matters. What conversations you entertain matters. Everything has the potential to either strengthen your peace or weaken it. Have you been intentional about what you allow to shape your spirit? This Friday, choose spiritual coverage before anything else. Before the errands, before the meetings, before the deadlines, before the conversations, establish your confidence in God. Let your heart settle in the awareness that you are not exposed to life without help. Does it shift your perspective knowing that your day can begin from a place of security instead of fear? Walk through this Friday with confidence. You are covered when you travel, covered when you work, covered when you rest, covered when you make decisions, and covered in moments you cannot anticipate. The peace that comes from divine protection allows you to move differently. What would change in your day if you truly believed you were fully protected? Beloved, as you enter this Friday, one of the greatest gifts you can ask for is not simply more opportunities, more resources, or even more time. One of the greatest things you can ask for is wisdom. Without wisdom, opportunities can be mishandled, resources can be wasted, and time can be mismanaged. Have you ever looked back at a situation and realized that what you truly needed was not more effort, but better direction? Many people are busy, but not necessarily effective. They are moving, working, deciding, responding, and reacting, yet still feeling unfulfilled or mentally exhausted. Activity alone is not evidence of alignment. Have you ever had a day where you were productive on many things, but still felt like you missed what actually mattered? This is why wisdom is essential. Wisdom gives you the ability to see beyond the immediate moment. It helps you recognize what deserves your attention, what requires patience, what needs to be released, and what is worth pursuing. What decision is currently asking for your attention right now? Maybe you are facing a work-related choice. Perhaps you are trying to decide whether to accept an opportunity, shift direction, start something new, or remain where you are. Sometimes the options in front of you are not obviously right or wrong. They simply require discernment. Are you currently standing at any kind of crossroads in your life? Wisdom is more than knowledge. Knowledge tells you what is possible, but wisdom tells you what is appropriate. Knowledge gives information, but wisdom gives timing, strategy, and perspective. Have you ever known exactly what to do, but struggled with when or how to do it? Timing matters. A good decision made at the wrong time can still create unnecessary stress. A valuable opportunity pursued without preparation can become overwhelming. Wisdom helps you avoid rushing ahead of readiness. Do you ever find yourself feeling impatient when things are taking longer than expected? Impatience often creates pressure. You start comparing your timeline to someone else's progress. You wonder why certain things have not happened yet. You feel tempted to force movement simply to feel like something is happening. Has comparison or impatience been affecting your peace lately? But wisdom teaches restraint. It reminds you that movement is not always progress, and delay is not always denial. Sometimes what feels like waiting is actually preparation. Can you think of a season where waiting ultimately worked in your favor? Wisdom is especially necessary in communication. Words have the power to build or damage, clarify or confuse, connect or divide. One conversation can open a door, strengthen a relationship, or create unnecessary tension. Have you ever wished you could take certain words back after speaking too quickly? Sometimes wisdom is knowing when to speak. Other times, wisdom is knowing when silence is the stronger response. Not every comment deserves your reply. Not every misunderstanding requires your defense. Do you sometimes feel the urge to explain yourself even when silence may be more powerful? Emotional discipline is deeply connected to wisdom. When emotions are high, clarity can become low. Frustration, disappointment, and hurt can all influence your judgment if left unchecked. Have your emotions ever pushed you toward a decision you later regretted? This Friday, ask for wisdom over your emotional responses. Ask for the ability to pause before reacting. Ask for clarity before making assumptions. Ask for patience before responding impulsively. What situations tend to trigger your emotional reactions most quickly? Wisdom is also necessary in relationships. Not every relationship in your life requires the same level of access, energy, or emotional investment. Discernment helps you recognize healthy connections, draining dynamics, and necessary boundaries. Are there relationships in your life currently requiring wisdom and clarity? Sometimes we remain loyal to patterns that are no longer healthy simply because they are familiar. We tolerate repeated stress because we fear change or discomfort. But wisdom invites honest evaluation. What relationship dynamic has been challenging your peace lately? Wisdom does not only help you avoid mistakes, it helps you maximize opportunities. There are moments when one wise decision can create momentum that benefits multiple areas of your life. A single disciplined choice can protect your finances, strengthen your health, improve your relationships, or preserve your peace. What area of your life currently needs wiser choices? Financial wisdom is one example. It is not only about earning money, but managing it responsibly, making intentional choices, and avoiding impulsive behavior. Have financial decisions been weighing on your mind recently? Wisdom also influences your schedule. Time is one of your most valuable resources. Without intentionality, your day can easily become consumed by distractions, interruptions, and low-priority demands. Do you often end the day wondering where all your time went? Not everything urgent is important. Wisdom helps you distinguish between what is pressing and what is actually valuable. It teaches you to prioritize what aligns with your purpose rather than what merely demands your attention. What has been competing for your attention this week? Sometimes wisdom looks very simple. It looks like resting when your body is depleted. It looks like saying no when your schedule is full. It looks like asking for help when your capacity is stretched. Do you find it difficult to honor your own limits? Many people ignore their limits until exhaustion forces them to stop. They keep pushing, overcommitting, and neglecting restoration. But wisdom understands sustainability. You cannot pour endlessly from an empty place. How has your energy level been lately? Wisdom also protects your future. It allows you to think beyond temporary feelings and immediate gratification. It asks, How will this choice affect me later? That question alone can save you from countless regrets. How often do you consider the long-term impact of your daily choices? As you move through this Friday, ask for strategic wisdom. Ask for clear thinking, sound judgment, and discernment in both big and small matters. Sometimes the most significant breakthroughs come through simple, wise decisions, repeated consistently. Do you believe small daily choices can shape your future? There is no part of your day too small for wisdom. You need wisdom in your conversations, your purchases, your commitments, your thoughts, your habits, and your reactions. Every area benefits from clarity. What part of your daily routine feels most in need of improvement? Do not underestimate the power of asking for guidance. Sometimes people assume they must figure everything out independently, but there is strength in acknowledging that you need direction beyond your own perspective. When was the last time you intentionally asked for wisdom before making a decision? You do not have to navigate this Friday through guesswork, anxiety, or mental confusion. You can move with clarity. You can think clearly, respond wisely, and choose intentionally. The day often unfolds differently when it begins with a request for divine direction. How would your Friday feel if every decision was guided by wisdom instead of pressure? As you continue through your day, remain attentive. Wisdom often appears through subtle nudges, inner clarity, peaceful restraint, or timely insight. Stay present enough to recognize it. What are you hoping to gain clarity about before this Friday ends? Beloved, as you step into this Friday, there is something you must intentionally decide before the day fully begins. You cannot carry yesterday into today and expect to experience the fullness of what God has prepared for you. Too many people enter a new day physically awake, but emotionally weighed down by what happened in previous hours, previous conversations, previous disappointments, and previous frustrations. Have you ever noticed how one unresolved emotion can quietly follow you into an entirely new day? Sometimes the body moves forward, but the mind remains stuck in what happened yesterday. You replay a conversation over and over again. You think about what someone said, what they did not say, what you should have done differently, or what outcome you wish had changed. Has your mind been revisiting something repeatedly this week? Mental replay can become exhausting. It drains your emotional energy before your day has even fully started. Instead of beginning with peace, you begin with tension. Instead of clarity, you begin with heaviness. Can you feel when your mind is already tired before the day has truly begun? This Friday is an opportunity to release what has been sitting heavily on your heart, not because it did not matter, not because it was not painful, and not because it did not disappoint you, but because carrying it longer will not change it. What emotional weight have you been carrying into multiple days? Maybe it is disappointment. You expected something to go differently. You hoped for progress, clarity, or a breakthrough, but instead encountered delay, silence, or frustration. Unmet expectations can quietly create emotional heaviness. Have you been dealing with disappointment recently? Disappointment often turns into discouragement if left unaddressed. It begins to influence your motivation, your confidence, and even your expectations for the future. You start approaching new opportunities through the lens of previous frustration. Have past disappointments been affecting how you view what is ahead? This is why release is necessary. You cannot hold tightly to frustration while expecting peace to flow freely. You cannot rehearse negative experiences while expecting renewed emotional strength. Sometimes freedom begins with a conscious decision to let go. What is one thing you know you need to release today? Maybe it is frustration with yourself. Not every burden comes from others. Sometimes the pressure is internal. You may be carrying regret over your own mistakes, missed opportunities, delayed progress, or choices you wish you could undo. Have you been harder on yourself lately than you realize? Self-criticism can become a silent source of exhaustion. You keep reviewing your own shortcomings, measuring yourself against unrealistic standards, or focusing more on what is lacking than what is growing. Do you often focus more on what you have not done than what you have accomplished? But today is not meant to begin with self-condemnation. It is meant to begin with renewal. You are allowed to learn from your mistakes without living emotionally trapped inside them. Growth requires reflection, but not emotional imprisonment. Is there something you need to forgive yourself for? Sometimes release also involves anxiety about what is ahead. While some people are weighed down by yesterday, others are already burdened by tomorrow. Their minds are racing through possibilities, obligations, uncertainties, and imagined outcomes. Does your mind tend to jump ahead before the day even begins? Anxiety has a way of stealing today by borrowing concerns from the future. It convinces you to mentally carry problems that have not even arrived. By the time the actual moment comes, you are already depleted. How often do you find yourself worrying about situations that have not happened yet? This Friday, choose to remain present, not stuck in yesterday, not consumed by tomorrow. Present. There is power in fully inhabiting the day you have actually been given. When was the last time you felt truly present in your own life? Release is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks simple and quiet. It looks like deciding not to revisit a painful conversation for the 10th time. It looks like refusing to let one negative interaction define your mood. It looks like redirecting your focus intentionally. What thoughts have been dominating your attention lately? You do not have to give every thought unlimited access to your energy. Not every memory deserves repeated emotional investment. Not every internal narrative deserves belief. Have you been intentional about what you allow your mind to dwell on? Thought management matters deeply. The quality of your thoughts often influences the quality of your day. If your mind is crowded with negativity, resentment, fear, or regret, it becomes difficult to access peace and creativity. What kind of thoughts have been filling your mind most this week? Sometimes the emotional burden is hidden beneath business. You keep moving, working, producing, and distracting yourself, but underneath the activity there is unresolved heaviness. Productivity can hide emotional fatigue for a while, but not forever. Have you been staying busy to avoid sitting with certain emotions? Emotional honesty is part of release. You cannot release what you refuse to acknowledge. Be honest with yourself about what is weighing on you. Name it clearly. Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it exhaustion? What emotion have you been carrying most strongly? There is power in recognizing what is present without allowing it to control you. Just because you feel something does not mean you must become ruled by it. Emotions are signals, not dictators. Do you sometimes feel controlled by your emotions in stressful moments? Friday is often a day when people are mentally depleted. By the end of the week, patience can feel thinner, motivation lower, and resilience weaker. The accumulated stress of multiple days can settle into your nervous system. Are you feeling the weight of the week in your body right now? That is why emotional reset is necessary. You cannot continue piling new demands onto an already overwhelmed internal state. Something has to be released to create space for renewal. What do you most need relief from today? Choose faith over fear today. Choose peace over internal chaos. Choose intentional release over emotional accumulation. Freedom is often less about changing every circumstance and more about changing what you continue to carry internally. What burden would make you feel noticeably lighter if you released it? You are not designed to carry everything indefinitely. Some things are lessons, not luggage. Some experiences are chapters, not permanent residences. Part of maturity is knowing what must remain behind as you move forward. What are you still carrying that no longer belongs in this season? As you continue through this Friday, keep checking in with yourself. Notice your internal atmosphere. Notice when tension rises. Notice when old thoughts attempt to reclaim space in your mind. Awareness creates choice. How aware have you been lately of your own emotional patterns? Today can feel different. Not because every circumstance has changed overnight, but because you have chosen not to begin this day emotionally chained to what no longer deserves your energy. There is strength in that decision. What are you choosing to release first this Friday? Beloved, as you step into this Friday, I want you to begin with expectation, not anxiety, not fear, not uncertainty, expectation. There is a powerful difference between simply surviving a day and entering a day with the mindset that something good can happen. How do you usually approach your Fridays? With expectation or with exhaustion? Many people start the day already assuming it will be ordinary. They expect delays, problems, disappointments, and routine stress because that has become familiar. Without realizing it, they train their minds to anticipate struggle more quickly than possibility. Have you ever caught yourself assuming the worst before the day even fully begins? Expectation shapes attention. What you anticipate often influences what you notice, what you pursue, and what you believe is possible. When your mind is fixed only on obstacles, it becomes easy to overlook opportunities sitting right in front of you. Have you been so focused on problems lately that you may have missed possibilities? This Friday is an invitation to shift your internal posture. Choose to believe that today holds more than tasks, deadlines, errands, and obligations. Today can hold favor. Today can hold progress. Today can hold divine alignment. What positive outcome are you hoping for before this day ends? Favor is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes people imagine favor only as major breakthroughs, unexpected money, or massive visible success. But often, favor appears in subtle ways that still have significant impact. Can you recognize small forms of favor when they appear in your life? Favor may look like the right conversation at the right time. It may look like a helpful connection, an unexpected opportunity, a timely solution, or a door opening with less struggle than expected. Has something small ever changed your day in a surprisingly meaningful way? Sometimes favor is protection from what never happened, a delay that rerouted you, a canceled plan that preserved your energy, a closed door that redirected your focus towards something better. Have you ever later realized that what felt inconvenient was actually beneficial? That is why perspective matters. Not every interruption is an obstacle. Not every detour is punishment. Sometimes what looks like disruption is actually divine redirection. How do you usually respond when your plans unexpectedly change? Expectation helps you stay open. When you are expecting good, you remain mentally flexible enough to recognize opportunity in unfamiliar forms. You stop assuming that blessings only arrive through the exact path you originally imagined. Have you been limiting possibility by insisting things happen only one specific way? Open doors are often connected to preparation. Many people want opportunities but are not emotionally, mentally, or practically ready to recognize or steward them. Expectation is not passive waiting. It is active readiness. If an opportunity showed up today, would you be prepared to handle it? Preparation matters. Sometimes the opportunity is already near, but your habits, mindset, or fear are delaying your ability to receive it fully. Breakthrough is not only about what arrives externally, it is also about what shifts internally. What personal area are you currently working to improve? Maybe you are preparing for growth in your career. Maybe you are building discipline in your finances, improving your communication, or strengthening your consistency. Growth often happens quietly before it becomes visible publicly. Have you been honoring your own preparation process lately? Friday is often seen as the end of the work week, but it can also be a strategic day of completion and momentum. While others mentally check out, you can remain attentive. Valuable things still happen on Fridays. Do you tend to finish the week strong or mentally disconnect too early? Sometimes one final conversation, one email, one decision, or one introduction before the weekend can create unexpected momentum. That is why expectation matters. Stay engaged with the day you are actually in. What opportunities might you overlook if you assume nothing significant will happen today? Expectation also changes your energy. When you believe something good is possible, your posture shifts. Your words sound different. Your face carries different expression. Your interactions feel lighter. Have you noticed how mindset can influence the atmosphere you carry into a room? People often respond to energy. When you are discouraged, guarded, and mentally closed off, it can affect the way you show up. But expectation creates openness, confidence, and emotional availability for possibility. How have you been showing up lately in your interactions? This does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending difficulties do not exist. Expectation is not denial. It is choosing not to let challenges become the sole narrator of your day. You can acknowledge reality while still making room for positive outcomes. Do you sometimes confuse realism with constant negativity? There is wisdom in balanced expectation. You are not demanding perfection from the day. You are simply refusing to approach it from a place of defeat. That alone is powerful. What would shift in your day if you decided not to assume disappointment? Expect favor in your conversations. Expect clarity in your decisions. Expect strength in your responsibilities. Expect helpful insights, smoother processes, creative ideas, and meaningful progress. What specific area of your day could benefit most from positive expectation? Sometimes favor appears through people. A recommendation, encouragement, opportunity, or support may come through an unexpected interaction. This is why staying relationally present matters. Have you been open to meaningful connection lately? Other times favor shows up through timing. Something happens at precisely the right moment, and you recognize that it could not have been orchestrated better. These moments remind you that not everything is random. Have you experienced moments where timing felt almost too perfect to ignore? As you move through this Friday, remain observant. Notice what is opening. Notice what feels aligned. Notice what brings peace rather than unnecessary confusion. Expectation increases awareness. What signs of progress have you already overlooked this week? Do not dismiss small wins. A productive conversation is progress. A completed task is progress. A healthier response is progress. A new idea is progress. Growth is often built through accumulated small victories. What small win can you already acknowledge today? When you honor small progress, you train your mind to recognize movement rather than obsessing only over what is unfinished. This strengthens resilience and motivation. Do you celebrate your progress enough, or mainly focus on what remains undone? This Friday is not empty. It is full of possibility, potential connections, strategic moments, lessons, and opportunities you may not yet see. But you must enter it with expectation to fully engage with what is available. What are you choosing to believe is possible today? Carry yourself like someone who expects good things, not from arrogance, but from confidence. Confidence that today can contain something meaningful, productive, helpful, or transformative. Even one small shift can alter the direction of an entire day. What if today holds more opportunity than you currently realize? Stay attentive, stay hopeful, stay engaged. Your mindset can either narrow your awareness or expand it. This Friday offers more than routine if you are willing to approach it with fresh expectation. What are you expecting to receive, notice, or experience before this Friday is over? Beloved, as you begin this Friday, it is important to understand that your mindset will shape much of what you experience throughout the day. Before you encounter people, responsibilities, challenges, or opportunities, there is already a conversation happening within your own mind. What has your inner dialogue sounded like lately? Many people underestimate the power of their thoughts. They assume their mindset is simply a passive response to life, when in reality, mindset often determines how life is interpreted, managed, and experienced. Have you ever noticed how two people can face similar situations but respond in completely different ways? One person sees an obstacle and immediately feels defeated. Another sees the same obstacle and begins searching for strategy, growth, or opportunity. The external situation may be similar, but the internal response changes everything. How do you usually respond when unexpected challenges appear? This is why strengthening your mindset matters. You cannot always control circumstances, but you can influence the way you frame them. Your perspective can either increase your resilience or weaken your confidence. What perspective have you been carrying into your days recently? Mindset is not about pretending life is always easy. It is about choosing a mental posture that supports growth rather than self-sabotage. It is the decision to remain anchored, disciplined, and intentional even when emotions fluctuate. Do you find it easy or difficult to stay mentally steady under pressure? Pressure has a way of exposing thought patterns. When things are calm, many habits remain hidden. But when deadlines tighten, emotions rise, or uncertainty appears, your internal patterns become more visible. What does pressure usually reveal about your thinking? Some people default to self-doubt. They immediately question their ability, worth, readiness, or competence. One small setback can quickly become evidence in their mind that they are incapable. Have you ever allowed one mistake to influence how you viewed yourself? Others default to avoidance. Instead of addressing what needs attention, they procrastinate, distract themselves, or mentally withdraw. Delay often feels safer than discomfort in the moment. Do you ever avoid important tasks because they feel overwhelming? This Friday is an invitation to strengthen your internal discipline. Discipline is not only about routines, productivity systems, or schedules. Discipline also includes your thoughts, attention, reactions, and habits. In what area of your life do you currently need more discipline? Mental discipline means not believing every thought that enters your mind. Not every internal voice deserves authority. Some thoughts are helpful, others are fear-based, exaggerated, or rooted in past experiences rather than present reality. How often do you challenge your own negative thoughts? A thought can appear convincing without being true. I am behind. I will never figure this out. I always fail. These statements may feel real in emotional moments, but feelings are not always reliable indicators of truth. Have you caught yourself using absolute language when frustrated? Strengthening your mindset requires awareness. You cannot shift what you do not first notice. Begin observing your internal patterns. Notice what you repeatedly tell yourself. Notice what assumptions you automatically make. What mental pattern has been repeating in your mind lately? Sometimes mindset is influenced by comparison. You observe someone else's success, progress, appearance, or opportunities and begin evaluating yourself through their timeline. Comparison quietly shifts your focus away from your own growth. Has comparison been affecting your confidence recently? Comparison is exhausting because it often ignores context. You compare your internal struggles to someone else's visible highlights. You compare your current chapter to someone else's middle or later chapter. Does that sound familiar in your own life? This Friday, choose focus over comparison. Your assignment is not to become someone else. Your responsibility is to steward your own growth, your own opportunities, and your own progress with intentionality. What would change if you became more focused on your own lane? Mindset also affects consistency. Motivation can fluctuate daily, but mindset influences whether you continue moving when enthusiasm is low. Strong mindset says, I may not feel like it, but I can still show up. How dependent are you on motivation to stay productive? There will be days when you feel energized and focused. There will also be days when your emotions feel heavy, your body feels tired, and your enthusiasm is limited. Consistency often matters most on those ordinary or difficult days. How do you usually respond when you do not feel motivated? Discipline helps bridge the gap between intention and action. Many people have good intentions, but without discipline, intentions remain ideas. Progress is often built through repeated small actions more than occasional bursts of effort. What small habit could improve your life if practiced consistently? Maybe it is waking up earlier. Maybe it is planning your day intentionally, reducing distractions, moving your body, protecting your focus, or managing your time better. Growth is often less glamorous than people imagine. It is usually found in repetition. What daily habit are you currently trying to strengthen? Mindset also influences your relationship with setbacks. Without resilience, setbacks feel like personal failure. With resilience, setbacks become information, feedback, or redirection. How do you emotionally process setbacks? Not everything that does not work is evidence that you are incapable. Sometimes it is simply evidence that something needs adjustment, refinement, or patience. Failure is often data, not identity. Have you been interpreting setbacks too personally? This Friday, choose to see challenges differently. A difficult conversation can sharpen communication. A delayed outcome can develop patience. A mistake can strengthen future judgment. Perspective transforms experience. Can you think of a past challenge that eventually taught you something valuable? Mindset is also connected to your environment. What you consume daily influences how you think. Conversations, content, music, social media, and repeated exposure all shape internal atmosphere. Have you been intentional about what is feeding your mind? If you constantly absorb negativity, criticism, outrage, or comparison-driven content, it becomes harder to maintain clarity and peace. Mental input matters. What has been influencing your thoughts most this week? Strengthening your mindset requires protecting your attention. Attention is valuable. Wherever your attention consistently goes, your energy often follows. Are you directing your attention intentionally, or mainly reacting to external demands? Friday can easily become a distracted day. By the end of the week, focus often weakens. Fatigue increases vulnerability to procrastination, emotional reactivity, and scattered thinking. Are you noticing lower focus as the week comes to a close? This is exactly why intentionality matters today. Finish strong. Remain present. Continue showing up with clarity, discipline, and purpose. One focused day still matters. What important task or responsibility needs your best attention today? As you move through this Friday, keep strengthening your internal posture. Speak to yourself with honesty, but not unnecessary harshness. Challenge limiting thoughts. Protect your focus. Honor your commitments. Return to intentionality when distraction appears. What is one mindset shift you want to carry into the rest of your day? Your external results are often influenced by your internal patterns more than you realize. The way you think affects the way you act, respond, decide, and persist. This Friday offers another opportunity to strengthen what happens within you before anything around you changes. What thought pattern are you choosing to replace starting today? Beloved, as you step into this Friday and begin to move through the rhythm of your day, there is a deeper awareness you must carry with you. You are not walking alone, and you are not operating by your own limited strength. There is a divine presence that goes ahead of you, prepares the way for you, and aligns things beyond what your eyes can immediately see. Have you ever stopped to consider how many moments in your life were quietly arranged for your good, even before you realized it? Walking with God is not just a morning declaration, it is a continual posture of trust, awareness, and alignment throughout the day. It means recognizing that every step you take is already known in the heart of God, even when it feels uncertain to you. How often do you pause during your day to remind yourself that you are guided and not abandoned? Many people live as though they are navigating life entirely on their own, reacting to situations as they come without remembering the divine partnership available to them. This creates unnecessary pressure, stress, and emotional exhaustion. But when you become conscious that your steps are ordered, something shifts internally. Do you usually move through your day feeling fully in control, or do you acknowledge a higher guidance at work? To walk in confidence is not to ignore reality, but to trust that reality is not the final authority over your life. Circumstances may change, people may shift, plans may adjust, but divine alignment remains steady beneath all of it. Have you ever experienced a situation that seemed uncertain in the moment, but later revealed a greater purpose? When you are aware that God is ordering your steps, you begin to walk differently. You no longer move with panic or confusion, but with intentionality and calm assurance. Even when you do not have full clarity, you still have peace in your direction. How would your decisions change if you believed your steps were already being guided? Confidence does not come from knowing every detail of your future. Confidence comes from trusting the one who already knows it. There is a difference between having information and having assurance. Information can change quickly, but assurance keeps you steady even when information is incomplete. Are you currently seeking more control or more trust in your journey? As you continue through this Friday, remind yourself that nothing you encounter today is outside of divine awareness. Every conversation, every delay, every opportunity, every interruption is already seen. That does not mean everything will be easy, but it does mean nothing is wasted. Do you believe that even the unexpected moments in your life can carry purpose? When you walk with this awareness, fear begins to lose its grip. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but confidence grows in trust. The more you remember that you are not walking blindly, the less power fear has over your decisions. What fears tend to surface for you when things feel unpredictable? Sometimes fear shows up subtly, not as panic but as hesitation. You second-guess yourself, you delay action, you overthink simple decisions. You look for external validation before moving forward. Does hesitation or overthinking ever slow down your progress? But when you trust that your steps are guided, you begin to move with clarity, even when you do not have complete understanding. You take the next step instead of waiting for the entire staircase to be revealed. Have you been waiting for full clarity before taking action in any area of your life? Walking with God also means paying attention to divine direction in small moments. It is not always dramatic or loud. Sometimes it is a subtle piece about a decision. Sometimes it is a sense of caution. Sometimes it is an inner clarity that gently redirects you. Do you usually pay attention to your inner sense of peace or discomfort? Distraction can make it harder to recognize guidance. When your mind is overloaded with noise, urgency, and constant stimulation, it becomes difficult to discern subtle direction. That is why awareness is so important. How often do you create space in your day to simply be still and listen internally? This Friday, choose to slow down internally, even if your external environment is busy. You can be active without being anxious. You can be productive without being pressured. You can move through responsibilities while still remaining spiritually grounded. Do you tend to equate business with productivity in your daily life? God's guidance is not only about major life decisions, it also applies to ordinary moments. Conversations, timing choices, and responses are all part of daily alignment. Even small decisions can be influenced by wisdom when you remain attentive. Have you ever made a small decision that later had a big impact on your day? When you walk with divine awareness, you begin to notice patterns. You recognize timing. You become more sensitive to opportunities and more cautious about distractions. You stop seeing life as random and start seeing it as meaningful. What patterns have you been noticing in your recent experiences? There is also peace that comes from knowing you are not responsible for controlling everything. Control is often an illusion that creates stress, but trust creates freedom. You can do your part, make your effort, and still rest in the outcome, being held by something greater than you. Are you currently trying to control something that is beyond your reach? Letting go of excessive control does not mean becoming careless. It means becoming surrendered. It means doing what you are responsible for while releasing what only God can handle. That balance brings emotional stability. What responsibility are you carrying that may require more trust and less tension? As you move through your Friday, remain open to divine adjustments. Sometimes direction changes mid-step. Sometimes plans shift. Sometimes unexpected opportunities appear. Flexibility allows you to remain aligned instead of resistant. How do you usually respond when your plans change suddenly? Resistance often creates frustration, but trust creates adaptability. When you trust the process, you become less emotionally shaken by change. You begin to see change not as disruption, but as possible redirection. Can you recall a time when a change eventually led you to something better? Walking with God also strengthens courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite uncertainty. When you know you are guided, you are more willing to take necessary steps, even when outcomes are not fully visible. What step have you been hesitant to take recently? Sometimes courage looks like starting something new. Sometimes it looks like ending something unhealthy. Sometimes it looks like having a difficult conversation or making a necessary decision. Each requires trust and direction. What area of your life is currently asking for courage? As you continue this Friday, remain conscious of your connection. You are not disconnected from guidance. You are not left to figure everything out alone. There is a path unfolding even when you cannot yet see the full picture. How would your emotional state change if you truly believed you were being guided in real time? Let your steps today be intentional. Let your thoughts remain anchored. Let your responses be guided by wisdom. Let your heart stay open to subtle direction. Every moment becomes more meaningful when you walk with awareness. What is one thing you want to remain mindful of as you move through the rest of this Friday?